This is a pretty cool build for this channel, and it's taken me so long to release because I wanted to make sure I went in depth and shared the how and the why to what I chose for this AR. If I were building my very first AR from the ground up, this is pretty much what I would have built if I knew then what I know now. When I build an AR from scratch, my process is simple. I have a list of parts that I know I need in order to make the firearm function properly. Those are the core parts I know I need to focus on first. Feel free to pause the video here if you want to see the list longer. Then I move to accessories that make the build work better for me. I'm going to cover all of this in this video. By the end, you should be able to follow my same process and build out your own custom ARs that fits your needs. As always, if you want to find anything I talk about on the channel, it can be found on the kit page of my website gunmanusa.com, which is where this entire build list will be with links to everything. Full disclosure, many of the parts I'm going to talk about were sent to me by the companies they are from, but not a single one of them reached out and asked me to review their product. Let me explain. The way it worked is after doing extensive research, I found all the products that I wanted for this build. Then I reached out to each company asking if they would send it to me for the review, and some agreed. I am under no obligation to make any of them look good. If I received a product and it turned out it was trash, I'm gonna tell you that. But that doesn't happen very often because I already thoroughly researched everything I put into this build, and it's all really high quality. So with all that out of the way, here's what made the cut. I'm going to structure this video by first showing you the essential parts, then the accessories I decided on after. Let's start with the barrel, as that will determine almost everything about what kind of AR this is. When building out an AR, you have a ton of options when it comes to barrel lengths and brands, and they all mean and do different things. For this build, I wanted a shorter barrel than I was used to because I knew I was going to suppress it and I didn't yet own a close quarter style AR. I went with another Ballistic Advantage Hansen Premium Series. This is their 10 3-inch barrel chambered again in 223 Wild. I chose the same barrel for my 16-inch build, and it has run flawlessly for me with incredible accuracy. So far, this is the same here. The only thing I don't like about their premium series barrels is their life expectancy isn't the longest, and they only come in a 1/8 twist if you get to 223 Wild chambering. The 1/8 twist really isn't that big of a deal though, and with the longevity of the barrel, it's likely to outlive most casual shooters anyway. I do though train with my ARs quite often, so I do need to worry a little bit more about the barrel's overall life in comparison to other barrel options. If I didn't go with this barrel, I would have went with either a Roscoe 10.5 Bloodline M4 5.56 or a BCM BFH 11.5 and 5.56. The BCM being my top choice as it's hammer forged with a 1/7 twist, which increases its life expectancy quite a bit, and the twist rate carries most common rounds accurately, including the heavy stuff the military uses, which truly makes it a battle-ready rifle. But you're definitely going to pay a price for that. Next up, because I went with Ballistic Advantage, they give you the option to add a superlative arms adjustable gas block, which I did go with. This has allowed me to perfectly gas tune the rifle both suppressed and unsuppressed, which really does overall affect the way that the gun feels and shoots. So I do recommend to get a good gas block that allows you to make adjustments reliably, which so far this one has done wonderfully. The gas tube is from BCM, and you can tell what size you need depending on the barrel's length. For this barrel length, it required a carbine length gas tube. So just make sure you check your barrel to see what size you need. The upper receiver is also from BCM. This is by far the best upper receiver I've used, and I'll likely use them moving forward in all of my custom builds. Mil spec, very well made, well coated and strong. You really can't go wrong with BCM. It comes with their dust cover and forward assist, but you can switch those out if you want. I wouldn't though. The bolt carrier group is from Sharp's Rifle Company. I've talked about these a bunch on the channel as I've used them in all my AR builds, and coming from somebody who has a ton of them, they have all been absolutely flawless. Their DLC coatings are incredible. They are cut and balanced to reduce wear inside your upper, and both the carrier and the bolt are made from S7 tool steel, which is the strongest material I've seen a bolt carrier group made out of. The average mil-spec bolt carrier group on the market is made from 8620 steel for the carrier and Carpenter 158 for the bolt. S7 has a 75% harder tensile strength than the Carpenter 158 steel, and Carpenter 158 is already stronger than 8620. So the fact that they use S7 for both the bolt and the carrier is really cool. There are a ton of features to this thing that I love, but overall in my testing, they've proven themselves to be extremely reliable, which is why I love them. If you don't want to go this route, I would just pick one up from BCM. The charging handle is the Jackal from X2 Dev Group. Again, I've ranted about how good these are on the channel, but this is my go-to charging handle for all of my ARs. I love the laterally inverted levers, which cause a linear directional pull, reducing the risk of damage to both your receiver and the charging handle. It's also one solid piece of material, which which makes it extremely strong. It's made from 7075 T6 aluminum. It's just a beast of a charging handle, and I love and prefer them. The iron sights are from Midwest Industries, and I'm trying to decide if I wanted an offset style or a fixed, and I went with the fixed because this is the look I was going for, but realistically, I'll probably move to offsets for practicality. If I wasn't running the riser, then these would be much more practical, but they still work for if I had to rip off my Optic if it ever failed, but it's an EOTech, so that's a slim chance. I went with Geisley's Super 42 buffer system. It includes the buffer tube, the buffer, and the Super 42 coiled buffer spring. The only difference is I originally bought the H3 buffer package, but in order to gas tune it properly, I actually ended up needing an H2 buffer. So I picked one up from BCM because they have faster shipping. Otherwise, I would have just went all Geisley. I've been a huge fan of the Super 42 coiled springs because of how quiet and reliable they are, but if I didn't go with Geisley, I would pick up a white standard SpringCo spring, which are very reliable. The castle nut and the end plate are both from 2A Armament because those are just leftover parts I had from another build. Honestly though, it's best to just go with BCM for these types of things, as all you really need are good quality mil-spec parts. Unless you have a certain look you're going for, these parts really just need to work. Also, I just picked up a mil-spec buffer retainer spring and detent. Because I used a shorter barrel, I had to either register this as an SBR or put on a pistol brace. So of course, in order to not be further taxed and regulated by a tyrannical institution governed by individuals who clearly can't read, which somehow are still able to establish arbitrary rules as law, bypassing checks and balances in an effort to disarm law-abiding citizens, I went with the SBA-3, which is a wonderful invention designed to both help disabled veterans and fight tyranny at the same time. But I think we can all agree how frustrating the ATF's overreach has been. And we'll see what happens with their final rule coming out soon. Now for the lower receiver. I want to preface this with it really doesn't matter too much what brand of lower you decide to go with. Most are pretty much the same. As long as it's mil-spec, you're really just paying for the name brand or additional features. But that's really just my opinion with what I've used and seen so far. Don't get me wrong, features are nice, and there are lowers out there that I would consider are better than others, but you're definitely going to pay a price for those. For this build, I wanted something that was both ambidextrous and well made. SilencerCo's lower fit the build perfectly with the price and the features I wanted. It's made from 7075 T6 aluminum, and its ambi controls are very simple and easy to use with minimal parts, which I really appreciate. And the added QD slots are nice touch, as well as the flared magwell. One thing I do hate about it though is where the rear takedown pin spring and detent are located. On most AR lowers, it's found behind the end plate, but this one is under the grip, which isn't necessarily less reliable, but I've noticed that it's much easier to replace parts like the safety selector when you aren't dealing with losing a takedown pin spring and detent, because obviously you have to take off the grip in order to switch out your trigger or your safety selector, and that's just another spring you regularly don't have to worry about losing. Anyway, speaking of the takedown pins, those are also from BCM. So far this lower has been great, and I honestly think it's a mid to higher tier lower receiver, and it's worth the money. From somebody who has owned a lot of different tiers of lowers like Bear Creek, PSA, Arrow, and Radian, this is truly a near top tier lower in my opinion, in both its build quality and features. Great fitting tolerances, easy button manipulation, and minimal flashy branding. So far it's been a great lower. The pins holding the trigger are just mil-spec anti-walk pins, which I use on almost all my builds. I do prefer them over standard pins, especially for drop-in triggers. This trigger is actually my favorite I have ever used from Trigger Tech. Now again, I've talked up Trigger Tech a ton in my previous builds, and that's because I really do think they make some of the best triggers out there. This one in particular is their brand new adjustable single stage diamond curved trigger, which is PVD coated. Once again, they have outdone themselves, and I have a full video on the mechanics and performance of this thing, but without a doubt, it is my favorite trigger I've ever owned. You saw how fast I could shoot this thing in the intro of the video. I have never been able to shoot a trigger that fast. The reset is so smooth, there's zero over travel, the brake is crisp, and when you adjust to the 1.5 pound pull, it's incredibly fast. I was using Trigger Tech safety selector, which I honestly have nothing against. I still run it in my 300 blackout build, but for me, nothing beats the Radian Talon. The mag release button is from Railscales. I talked about these in my 300 blackout video, but I like them a lot. You can definitely run just a standard mil-spec one, but I love the positive grip you get from the Railscales version. They also cut cut them at a slant, which really just gives your finger a lot of grip. The quad rail is from Midwest Industries, and since finding their stuff, I've been a huge fan of their handguards. Some of the things I love about them are they design and build anti-rotation, so there's no way your handguard can be misaligned. They also T-mark and use one of my favorite methods to tighten everything down, which is just 2 hex screws at the bottom rather than 6 screws all the way around the handguard, which is a horrible design in my opinion. I love the cuts, the build quality, and the design of this thing. They also come in a variety of sizes, so you're pretty likely to find the right size for your build, which a lot of companies surprisingly don't do. A lot of guys only make the standard sizes, but I feel like they go in between. Because I have a 10.3 inch barrel, I went with the 9.5 inch length in order to not interfere with the muzzle device and suppressor, and it's the perfect length. If you got a 10.5 barrel, I'd probably go with the 10 inch length though. The muzzle device is the Surefire Muzzle Break, so I can run my 300 SPS. It's the same break I run on my 300 Blackout, and it's been great so far. If I wasn't running the suppressor, I would probably throw on a VF18 from X2, which directs the gas and the blast pressure forward away from you and the people next to you. They are much more comfortable than any other break I've used or seen on the market. Even the Surefire Muzzle Break is very uncomfortable to shoot unsuppressed, so I definitely keep the can on almost all the time. The last thing you're going to need is a grip, and I usually go with Magpul's K2+. I think they're super comfortable and I've had great experiences with them so far. There is a brand called Driven Arms Co. who makes another grip that I think is my favorite when it comes to aesthetics, but I've never used one, so I don't know how comfortable they actually are. They look sweet though. Oh, and the last thing you're going to need is a spring and detents kit. This one came from an Aero Precision Lower Parts kit. So far, these have been great, but don't cheap out on them because the springs are vital to the reliability of your build. Aero is definitely the least expensive I would go. If you can afford it, I linked the BCM version on my site. I would likely go with that one in the future. Now that we've covered all the important parts that make the gun actually run, we can move to the parts that make the build more functional. I'm not going to spend as much time on these, but I will still run through them. Let's start on the upper. Again, we have Unity's Fast Riser, which I absolutely love, and on that is EOTech's XPS2-1. EOTech is really funny in the way they label their products, and it took me a second to figure it out, but essentially the -1 represents the reticle option, and the XPS2 is the model. So if it has a -2 after the model number, it would have the center dot plus a 100-yard mark, and so far with the -3, it would add another reticle point to your optic. I prefer optics with a single dot, especially when it comes to EOTechs, because their other options feel fuzzy to me. So far, I absolutely love this model though. Some of you might be cringing at the multicam black Ranger wrap I have throughout the build, and yeah, I kind of agree with you. It's just a poor man's attempt to add texture to the build. It's literally nothing more than that. The light setup is close to the normal setup I run on all my builds, with a couple of changes. Starting with the head, we have the Mod Light Legacy Enhanced Flood. I went with the Flood because on my other builds I have focused on distance of beam, and for a close range rifle setup I wanted more field of view. And this head without a doubt does that. So far, while still being extremely bright, the Flood option is incredibly effective. The head's attached to an AirSoca 600 series body, the tail cap is a Surefire UE, connected to Mod Light's mod button, and holding the button is an HRF hunchback, which I'm a huge fan of. The light itself is sitting almost as far up as I can get it on my handguard in order to reduce the dark spot from my suppressor, and the mount is T-Rex Arms Picatinny Light Bar Scout mount. And I run this one because it's slightly raised, which allows me to run my can without interference. The sling is also from T-Rex Arms, and I would say it's overall pretty good. It is better in my opinion than the Edgar Sherman design that I run on my 300 Blackout build, and I liked that one a lot. The QD on the back is from BCM, which you do have to buy separately, and on the front I have Magpul's MS1 attached to their RSA, but I'm probably going to switch this to the RSA QD version because it's just way too bulky for no reason. I bought it all before I really knew it was going to be annoying, so I'm going to change it all to full QD. The last thing here is the Gen 3 Law Tactical folder, which I really do like a lot. There are no complications in reliability, and overall, it's nice to be able to fold the stock when needed. So that's the build. Once you know all the parts you need to get, it really just comes down to figuring out what you like and finding good balance between perfectly reliable and aesthetic. Do your best to avoid super inexpensive parts if you can. I try to make sure with each build I'm focusing on quality over quantity. We all know that guy who has a bunch of half-finished 16-inch PSA rifles and only shoots one of them. Don't do that. Just take time on one build. Buy one part at a time if you have to, which is often what I do. Try to build purpose-driven rifles, and make sure you're taking time to figure out what it's going to be used for and how you're going to train with it. Speaking of which, training is an essential part of responsible gun ownership. If you're a part of the gunman community, you know that you are your own best defense. Your ability to protect innocent life heavily weighs on your training, so please get out there and get better. I have so much more coming to this channel. Things have been crazy, but I'm working on it. A lot of big things have happened. We're working on channel sponsorships, which are going to make creating content a lot easier, and it's also going to provide a lot more content that I can create. Stay tuned. Thank you for your support, and I'll see you in the next one.